My name is Richard Angeroni, and welcome to my garage.
And my bow and arrow, I'll take it to the woods. Mama smiled.
Today we're going to make an historic looking arrow, and we'll start with a dowel. Make sure it's straight, that's important. We set it up in our vise, wrap some cloth around it so that the vise doesn't make its marks on it, and with a carbon blade we're going to cut the knock about 3/16 of an inch deep. This has to be centered. After cutting the knock, we want to cut the dowel to size and also stain it. And the next thing we're going to do is put the crest on it, but we have to rough it up for the paint and for the glue to adhere. So that's what we'll do now. And I want to mark down 7.5 inches to start the cresting. I know that because I measured it before. And now we start the crest. We have the variable speed drill set up in this position, and we put the dowel in there with the knock first. This is something, the eye screw that goes into a block of wood, that's going to get rid of some of that wobble. The paint that we're going to use is paint in a pen, believe it or not. You want to make sure that you don't touch these nibs. If you touch the blue with the yellow, you're going to get green. Even when you apply that first ring, make sure that the colors are separated. All right, we're going to set the spin with a piece of tape over the trigger, and that'll give us the rotation that we need. Let's start. And that's it. Now while this dries, we'll go to the Fletcher. This is the jig that I prefer. There are many different ones out there, but this is the old type that gives you a die that would give you a 3 or 4 feather arrow. It's made of brass and it's sturdy. On the clamp itself, you'll see that it arcs from the right to the left. You fletch an arrow with this, when the arrow is shot, it's going to spin to the left. If you had one going to the right, it would be the right. But when you're talking about turkey feathers, that's another chapter. I'll illustrate by this turkey, the suicidal turkey that I harvested last year. On the outside of the wing, they're called primary barred feathers. Those are the ones that you want to use. That's what we have here. The right and the left wing. With the heliarch, as it's called, going to the left, you have to use the feather from the left wing. The right would go to the right heliarch. Now that we've chosen the feather that we want to use, you want to cut a template out from an original fletching that you like. This is plexiglass. Once you have that set up, you want to find the best part of the quill to start with, and then press down on the quill. Hold your fingers tight at the bottom. You don't want to disrupt the line. And then with a pair of dikes, you start the first cut through the quill, and then with the scissors, just go around it. End off with the dikes again, and there you have your cut feather. A little trimming on the top, and then also you see where the quill splits. You want to cut right down the middle of that, turn it over and just clean it up. Now what we have to do is sand this so it has a nice surface and it'll stick to the dowel. Now to do that, we made up this jig. Pretty straightforward. A couple of blocks of wood with a hinge on the back, a locking hasp. On the inside, Tico that you glue. You want a smooth surface, you don't want any screws in that. And make sure it protrudes up from the block about 5/16 of an inch. We'll take the feather that we just cut and we'll place it in there. And lock it up. I've tried a number of different methods to do this, but the belt sander works the best. I'm going to take and then shave on either side That's why that Tico is there. And then finally I'm going to get a flat surface. And we'll take the fletching. I have the mark on the clamp. We want to place it on the dowel at this point to see if there's any daylight coming through the other side. And that looks pretty good. There are several types of glues to use. The gel is the one that I prefer. If you use the instant drying one, it fractures on impact. This has a little give. Get yourself nice and squared away and give an even bead all the way down. Take your time with this, you want it right. And then place it on the dowel. Then wipe the nib off. Don't apply any more glue. And just make a straight line to even out that bead. Now I give it about 30 minutes to dry. This has been drying for a while. And you see sometimes what happens in the overlap. You want to make it aerodynamic. Take a straight edge razor and then cut it, and that's what you achieve. Okay, this is for the broadhead. This is a piece of galvanized steel. Now what I've done is I got a marker and created the profile of the broadhead. Now the grinder is the thing that you're going to use on this piece of steel. If you don't have a grinder and you want to try it with a hacksaw, man, you got too much time on your hands. This is going to take a while. So we cut this out, and then we achieved this, as you can see. And we went back with the cutter while this was in the vise, and we trimmed it out, and we got this, getting closer. And then the final step, inside the drill itself, we'll take this blank and a pair of pliers. We're going to sand it on both sides. Now that we have that all sanded off, we want to give it the scallop look, and for that we put a grinding stone in our drill. And this is what it should look like. The way we place the knock on the other side, we want to get the groove in here for the broadhead. So what you want to do is start it with a hacksaw, because you have to it really depends on the thickness of the steel. Put a little bit of glue on the ends. Set that back in there. Alright, now while that's drying, we're going to get a piece of waxed cord. This serves for two purposes. Number one is going to reinforce where we place that broadhead, and number two, it gives it that historic look. This is how they did it. Well, maybe not with waxed cord, but... And do it one more time. And we're going to cut this. And now we're going to burn the edges on it. Okay, the same on this side, slip knot on. And the final thing that we have to do with this is to give it that aesthetic look. We want to dip it in stain and let it dry. Now that the stain, it's almost dry, and you want to dab it, and that'll give a patina to that broadhead. I don't know if you could see that, but there it is, and it's ready to fly. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
My bow and arrow, the bow and arrow, I shoot it all the